Good morning, everyone. Call the Board of Supervisors into session for our September 19th, 8:30 work session with the county engineer. Russell.
Morning. I'll just run through the engineer's report real quick. The North Bankston Bridge replacement. Taylor Construction is planning on starting this bridge after the completion of the Hickory Valley Bridge. Hickory Valley Bridge replacement. Taylor has made good progress on the bridge substructure. Taylor will continue the substructure work for the next few weeks. Goose Hill Road paving project. Progressive Structures has completed all the culverts and box culverts. Progressive Structures will continue to work on finalizing grading and transitions this week. Hopefully by the end of the week, they'll be out of here and ready for River City to start the overlay project aspect of the project. Thunder Road paving project. Stager Construction has completed all the culvert work. They plan to finish intersections this week, and River City also plans to come in this week to HMA overlay. James and Flanagan. Peter Equipment has started the culvert replacements this last week, and they will continue the culvert replacements this week for the next couple weeks. 2022 miscellaneous culvert replacement. Peter will work these in between the schedule of the county and private work. Amram Bridge construction replacement. Jim Schrader has started the work on the superstructure last week, and with any luck, they will possibly pour that bridge deck this week. The John Deere build project, the John Deere portion, Pierce Tobin has continued storm work for the south roundabout and sections of the South John Deere Road. Portson continues to pave sections of the roundabout. They will continue to continue to pave, doing paving lanes, medians, truck aprons, and curb and gutter for the foreseeable future. And as far as the Northwest Arterial aspect of the build grant project, Pierce Tobin has completed resurfacing of the southbound lanes from JFK to Pennsylvania. Pierce Tobin is work on the detour pavement on the northbound lanes from Pennsylvania to US 20 for the upcoming phase. Pierce Tobin will begin milling this week for the southbound lanes from Pennsylvania to US 20. Milling along with base widening and resurfacing is planned over the next 2 weeks. Any questions?
I have nothing.
Questions about your report? I appreciate it.
It's similar, close to the report. The Heritage Trail, excuse me, not Heritage, well, Heritage Trail eventually connection, but the crossing at Highway 3 that's on the agenda today.
Yes.
I think just kind of wanted to get your overall comments about that intersection. We've had a lot of discussion in the past about it, and looking at the design, I'm quite pleased with the overall design and the layout of that intersection, pedestrian intersection that being. They want to catch you off guard. Any thoughts about that, and or when would that go to construction?
I believe that's in construction for next season's work. As far as if it's going to be the beginning or the end, I think that probably depends on the contractor schedule, obviously driven that way. We've had monthly progress meetings and that has not yet come up. So I anticipate as soon as I hear wind of it or a contractor showing up on site to start that work, I'll inform you. But until then, I'm not really sure when that's going to happen.
The volume up in the room. I asked to turn the volume up in the room.
Sorry.
For this very reason. Everyone's very soft spoken this morning, and you're at a microphone. It's got to be the system. So, yeah.
And then just I guess while we're on topic, part of the meeting today is adopting, we have a resolution to take take on that crossing and all aspects of it. It'll become Dubuque County's responsibility to take that over, especially the medians, the crosswalk, and all associated work will get turned into Dubuque County for future maintenance and part of the conservation, just to uphold everything with that, especially within the DOT right away. So that kind of outlines generally what that resolution.
Right, just turning it over to us once it's completed.
Right.
For maintenance and repairs.
Yep.
Can we pull that up, part of the packet up about Heritage Trail and the crossing on the highway? The John Deere build grant is what I'm referencing. I think that's what we're talking about.
Yes.
Because we've had safety concerns about that. And whenever I drive through that area, those remain. It's in the under action items. It's going to be item C, I guess.
Go to page like 12 or 13, you'll kind of get some good diagrams. No, 12 or 13, page 12 or 13. You might be able to see a couple more down, and that's the start of it, but a couple more down, or that's the best one.
That's probably the best one. Yeah.
I'm just very uncomfortable with this. I feel like we're stuck in the spot. That we would not choose to do this as an improvement, but it's part of the federal grant. And are we sure this is the safest that we can make it be? And there's a lot of, pavement markers and things that have to be cleaned up. But I've been through this intersection in this area multiple times in the last 2 weeks. It's not going to be good.
It wasn't one of my top priorities, or I guess I would have preferred that they had gone up to the walkover bridge, but apparently they couldn't get there. There is a lot of traffic there, and I mean, you got people crossing the road. It is a concern.
But people don't usually cross the road there, and the traffic moves fast and it's big traffic.
Yep.
Maybe this is where those rumble strips need to go. Russell and I have been talking to a citizen who wants to put in he wants us to think outside the box, put a lot of rumble strips all around the county, so.
Russell, have you reviewed this design? And I mean, I know both did it. But,
Yeah, both did it, and so I was not involved with this design. I think they did a traffic study with these safety. I believe that's a raised median, so they got an area that they could pause. I'm sure it's an ADA aspect of it. The flashing lights is going to help. But admittedly not too involved with this. But I do know in order to get the build grant, it had ties with the trail. And so this was probably the most feasible design that they came up with. And
yeah, I was obviously involved with this when we first started designing, and we looked at a lot of alternatives coming up through John Deere Road, but there was almost 20 crossings, both public and private lane crossings. And then they did briefly look at going along Highway 3 to the pedestrian, but a lot of that area is flood prone, and or the private right of way is it's sloped off and or just is going to be challenging, and it's a long ways.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good mile or so. And so this was this was the original idea to cross at 3, and then the board and many others said, how can we make it as safe as we can? And I think from my vantage point, they did a really good job of it. So we originally we were going to cross at the intersection, which would be 4 lanes. And so Fultz had the idea of it moving it to the north, and with that median center aisle, you're only crossing 2 lanes potentially at 2 different times. But the traffic does move fast through there, and that raised median will be a learning curve for those vehicles. But it goes from 4 to 2 or 2 to 4, and I think it's the best you can make it. I don't anticipate a lot of traffic there, but if you're going to connect to the trail at grade level, that's probably as good as it gets. They also looked at tunneling. They also looked at going to the Sageville Bridge and riding it around there, but flood issues and right-of-way issues were all very challenging. I'm pretty sure I've seen these in Florida and many other times over my travels, and usually the warning lights and/or little poles get tagged quite often.
Right.
So you might want to get a couple backups.
Yeah.
But it is a safety crossing for pedestrians, and it does allow it. But I wouldn't encourage small children with strollers. If you have more bikers that are going to proving grounds, that's the intention. Most of those riders are a little more sophisticated.
So the conservation board would be developing the other side of the property? Is that planned to develop? I mean, do we think we're going to have traffic on this crossing?
Yeah. So I mean, so this design has not been approved or reviewed by the conservation board. They're aware of it. But this was the first design I saw when it hit our packet. And so that will be a step. And Brian Preston, he might be on the line right now. I gave him a heads up that this was on the agenda, and he planned to be here at least at 9 if there are questions for him. But yeah, the other side of it is the little Macoka Indian burial mounds. I forget exactly the name, but maybe that's the name of it. And so there is a DNR, Iowa DNR park on the other side of that, and then we'll use the old right-of-way to connect to the Heritage Trail. So we've got some work to do to acquire some right-of-way, and then ultimately finish out the trail if we want to make it surface type as the Heritage Trail. But is that Brian on the line there or not? Nope. Okay. So yes, that is the intent, and if it's next construction year, that should give us enough time to be able to figure those issues out. It's probably be a half mile from there to the Heritage Trail.
Probably tops, I would say.
Kind of look at it like the Zipers situation where we know it's not best practice, but it's the way it's designed, it's the best it can be. Maybe as we get closer to this occurring, if we can work together with the sheriff. I don't know what you do to make it be as safe as it can be as we roll it out and it becomes functional, but it's certainly an area that I am concerned about. You just would listen for that.
Feedback. Yeah. Right.
The other question I had, if we wanted just to comment a little more from 2 weeks ago related to the position that's also on the agenda tonight. I think it's the requisition possibly, personnel requisition. For the assistant roads maintenance superintendent.
Yep.
So yeah, I read the document. Looks like overall what we discussed, and I saw the wage scale in there. Just to reiterate, I think our comments were 2 weeks ago that there would not be an increase in the budget related to this position for this year. Is that still true?
That's correct. Yep.
And are you intending to keep the other position open? Or will the other position be considered replaced by this? Do you see what I'm saying? For budgeting,
Leader position.
Yeah.
Um,
is that no longer going to be a position that we
It'll
have in the
just-
county?
no, we don't plan to eliminate it just remain vacant. Just in case somewhere down the line that we feel that
There's Stella going by you right now.
we feel like if this does not perform or whatever, we always have the option to go back.
See,
It's just an idea, like I said, quick overview. Feel like this position's better served as a management position. And if you collectively agree with that, that's how we'd like to see it go. Doesn't necessarily have to be. I think we'd have more success as it being a management role, especially over our Farley shop and crew in the Farley shop as well. Kind of spreads more evenly. Winter
yeah,
operations.
I support the position. I support the position. I support what you want to do. What I'm not clear about is whether we're adding a new position and then what we are doing is increasing the budget. It is an increase. If you're keeping that other position, crew leader, open, and Stella indicated in your email to me that then we budget for open positions, right? Assuming that they're going to be used. That's what I just want to have us all understand is what happens there. Good
Morning, everyone. So typically when we do personnel budget, we budget for all open positions, assuming that they would probably be filled within the year. We don't have many positions that go unfilled for an extended period of time. So in this situation, if the intent is to not fill that position, we would want to document that to not budget for it. So we just want to be very clear in our documentation, in our files, whether we intend to fill, excuse me, one or two positions with this change.
So when will the engineer need to be deciding that for budget time?
We would need to know, we would want to know whenever you make your decision upon it. So I don't know, I don't think Russell's intent based on our conversations was to fill both at the same time. So as you make these decisions, we would want to keep that documentation.
And I guess my understanding was that the crew leader was not going to be filled.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. This is kind of like.
You want to keep that position on paper.
Right.
In case this new management position doesn't work out, they can always go back.
Or we have a change of mind and we'd rather have it as a crew leader versus the assistant road superintendent to keep our options open. But the intent is to not add personnel, just to fill it in this new position.
And the budget is not being increased and the personnel line item budget is not being increased for this year, correct?
No, I think it's 2 years before it changes the personnel budget. Is that correct? I think it was like step 3 or 4 before it made any change in the budget.
That's correct. Yes. It'd be step 3 before it'd be an increase to what the current crew leader position is waged at.
It'd be minor increase to the budget for one person.
It could
Just the
be-
wages.
Right.
yes.
And it could be a couple years out before we
Right.
get to that point, depending on the qualifications of the candidate.
Okay.
It's great.
Thank you, Stella.
So if you don't have any more questions, I don't think I have much more to go over. There's one more, I guess, resolution to approve the lease agreement with Greg and Roxanne, Willie for the winter equipment parking, which is our annual thing.
Okay.
Looks like a good partnership that we've had for 3 years and
Right,
see
yeah,
all the reasons to continue it.
exactly, I agree.
You had, I don't know if you or someone else put this in our packet related to
I did.
stats. That's helpful. I appreciate that and
Yep.
reminds me of the old days to remember that we're county number 31. For those of us old enough to remember that one's used to be on our license plate.
I had asked Russell some of those just general questions. And I said, if you're gonna be responding to me, just attach to the roads report, so we all have it. You know, it's just general information. If he's gonna have, I appreciate your time in getting that ready.
Mhm.
But then we all have the information together, so. Was at an event yesterday and a gentleman who's 72 years old said, I've lived here for 72 years. The roads have never been better in my 72 years. So thank you again to your whole team. So
Thanks, it's good to hear that feedback.
There's been a lot of progress made with the bridges and roads over the last.
Unprecedented. Yeah, the number of lane miles and
Yeah, absolutely.
and structures improved. Probably a record over the last 6-8 years.
So this was a big year for cost. Are we on target? I mean, it might be good to have a refresh of what 23 was going to look like. How many projects are we still going to be able to complete because of increases in costs? We put out, I think it was 17 million, right?
Yeah, I think actually with all aspects of it, it's probably closer to 25 million.
That would include all the maintenance and expenses and stuff too.
Build grant.
Construction project, yeah, with the build grant and stuff, so.
Right. And we're still on track, do you think, to get to spend that kind of money by the end of the fiscal year?
I believe so. The John Deere one obviously is 2 seasons long. But yeah, budget wise, we're still looking good.
So maybe just when we get to budget time, we'll see where what's been accomplished and then looking ahead, obviously,
Right.
to the next year. Very good. Thank you.
I have nothing further, Russ. Jay, you have anything
Where
further?
do I?
Okay, thank you, Russ.
Well, thank you.
Make a motion to recess until 9 a.m.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to recess until 9 a.m. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. We are in recess until 9.
I'll turn this one.
I'll call the Board of Supervisors back into session. Begin our 9 o'clock meeting on September 19th. We'll start with public comments. At this time, anyone may address the board on matters of which are on the agenda. Please go to the podium, state your name and home address. Individuals wishing to comment on a public hearing will be given the opportunity during that respective hearing. Individual remarks are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone in chambers wishing to address the board? Seeing no one in chambers, do we have anyone on Zoom, Kevin?
We do not.
We'll move along. There are no proclamations at this meeting. We'll go to the approval of the meeting minutes of the meeting of September 12th.
Missed an action-packed meeting, Chair. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. We'll move on to consent items. Hispanic Heritage Month Special Events Permit Application. That is for the use of the lot behind the courthouse here, I believe, with smokestack. right?
Yes, it's a event collaboration between Loras College and Smokestack. They will be using the parking lot, and we do have insurance certificates from both Loras and from Smokestack that are current, naming Dubuque County. And they did submit a site plan, which will show what they intend to be doing.
Questions, comments?
Of the large spoon and fork. I think those are wonderful symbols.
Hard to miss where you're going to be eating.
I will make a motion to approve the Hispanic Heritage Month Special Events Permit application.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the Hispanic Heritage Month Special Events Permit. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have a Class LC liquor license for Life's a Feast. Kevin.
Motion to approve.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the Class LC liquor license for Life's a Feast. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. There are no public hearings for this meeting, no procurement procedures for this meeting. Approval of plats for the Ywca Place number 2, section 10, Dubuque Township.
Good morning. This is the auditor. Last week, the board approved this plat. There was a error at the top of this resolution within the legal description. And instead of preparing an affidavit to amend it, we simply reintroduced it with the correct language on today's agenda for approval. So this was approved last week. We're simply asking for you to reapprove it as well with the correct legal description.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the final plat.
Second.
You have a motion and a second to approve the final plat of Ywca Place number 2, section 10, Dubuque Township. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Have a resolution to approve the hiring of deputies, assistants, and clerks, which I believe has just 2 positions on it for Sunnycrest.
Motion to approve the resolution.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the hiring of deputies, assistants, and clerks. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have the resolution to approve the lease agreement with Greg and Roxanne Willie for winter equipment parking for the county roads. This is an annual lease agreement.
I will make a motion to approve the resolution for the lease agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the lease agreement with Greg and Roxanne Willie for the winter equipment parking for the county roads. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the cooperative agreement for primary road project, Iowa DOT agreement number 2022-16-137 for project HDP-C031 (110-6B-31) grade and pave improvements to the Northwest Arterial D10 South John Day Road project. And I believe that is just for the maintenance on the walking trail. Brian is here.
We had some, conversations. If Conservation Director Brian Preston has any comments or questions the board has for him, he is present.
Did you see the agreement, Brian?
Yeah, very briefly, but just got notified Friday, this is gonna be on, but yeah, the Conservation Board has not received this yet, but we were aware of this agreement coming and look forward to the project moving forward.
My understanding is just, well, going through, when I went through it, just that we're agreeing to do the maintenance and repairs on the trail once it's built.
Correct. Yep, we have all the equipment and personnel necessary to do that. And I think it'll be a good addition to the trail system.
Auditor to advance to the map showing the median. Just want you to be aware that that's there, that
Yep.
pedestrian median in the middle of
Yep.
very high traffic.
I worked on this with Anthony
Okay.
and the design, I think both design portion of this project, so familiar with that too.
If you could comment on what happens after that when we get across Highway 3, what's the plans to connect to Heritage Trail?
Yeah, so immediately adjacent to that is the Iowa DNR State Preserve that the Conservation Board manages. We'll work with to obtain a right of way from them and then follow the old Highway 52 road over to the Heritage Trail is our intended connection there.
Does it have any impact with the city of Sageville?
Not that I'm aware, but we'll reach out to Sageville and discuss this before that part moves forward.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the cooperative agreement for the primary road project. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Next, we have a resolution for the approval of the purchase of service swap contract for the Fountain of Youth. Ed, were you going to give context on these?
Morning, this is Ed Raber. So there are about 10 applications, 10 projects that you'd awarded funds to that have a contract that is on the agenda. In working with our insurance agent, we finally have gotten into a rhythm where they are comfortable and as of last week, the county attorney has also reviewed that as well as the budget director. The language on insurance and the other elements. And so we are just putting the projects into contracts. So these are all very similar, except for page 6, the scope of work.
The contract for the Fountain of Youth was for $63,667.
Correct.
Any questions? Yeah.
No.
I do not have one. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the contract for the Fountain of Youth.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the resolution for the purchase of service contract for the Fountain of Youth in the amount of $63,667. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we'll move to the approval of the purchase of service swap contract for the city of Epworth.
The only note that I'll make here for the municipal or governmental contracts, there is a slight change to one of the insurance requirements or requests that they have. These relate to our insurance agents and our insurer wanting us to make sure that we are covering potential theft, employee as an example, someone that absconds with the funds or something like that. So there's a slightly different language for these governmental requests than for, say, the Fountain of Youth as a separate nonprofit.
Thank you, Ed. Any questions, Jay? Ian?
No, make a motion to approve the resolution.
And I will second that.
You have a motion and a second to approve the resolution for the purchase of service swap contract for the city of Epworth. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution for the approval of the purchase of service swap contract for the city of Bankston. And that is for $25,650. Ed?
I don't have anything.
Do we have any update? Do you know if they've begun that?
I don't believe that they have begun that. I've been in contact with the city clerk, Betty Mauser, and they're looking forward to having this contract, and then Delta 3 Engineering will get started on that project.
My understanding as well. I will make a motion to approve the resolution for the city of Bankston.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of the purchase of service swap contract for the city of Bankston. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution for the approval of the purchase of service swap contract for Dubuque Community YMCA and YWCA. And that is in the amount of $100,000.
And my report is the same. They're just waiting on this contract, and then they will embark on the project.
Thank you.
I will make a motion to approve the resolution for the Dubuque Community YM and YWCA.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of service swap contract for the YMYWCA. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution for the approval of the purchase of service swap contract for the Dubuque Dream Center. That is in the amount of $266,400.
Make a motion to approve the resolution for the swap contract for the Big Dream Center.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of service swap contract for the Dubuque Dream Center. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution for the approval of the purchase of service swap contract for the University of Northern Iowa. Ed, you have context on that one. That's in the amount of $74,900.
Right. I noted in the memo in the packet, as well as in other communications, this one is a bit different than some of the others. The award was made several months ago on this project to Clark University. The researcher that developed this project was a faculty member at Clark, and subsequent to that, due to some family reasons, this researcher relocated out of the immediate area but nearby, and is now faculty at the University of Northern Iowa, and had wished to continue the project. Clark University has corresponded with the county to say that they release the project and hope the project continues. They do not have a capacity to complete the project on their own. It's about this researcher. The University of Northern Iowa has corresponded to say that they accept the project and would provide the support for the project. And the researcher, Jamie O'Gara, Dr. O'Gara, has written to say that she would complete the project with the same scope that they had originally worked on. She had a research partner originally at Clark University who also moved on out of state, and has a new research partner at Loras College. Unfortunately, both of those two researchers, faculty members, are teaching this morning in college classes and are unable to be here. So the information is that this award was made for this project to Clark University. Same project as before you for the University of Northern Iowa to complete as they under the same scope, I guess. There'll probably be one or two other projects where an award was made to an organization, but ultimately the contract is developed with a different organization, all of which is under your control, but that is that situation.
All the funds remain in Dubuque County.
Right. So the project is about some research on some households with children in Dubuque and Dubuque County, with a special emphasis on some special populations of Marshallese and I believe Hispanic families.
The actual payments will be made to UNI.
Right.
I have confirmed with Clark University, and Ed and I have talked about this. So the work will still be focused on the city residents, and it will be city focused. Countywide is their real focus, but the checks will be, payments will be made to UNI. Apparently in academics, this is not uncommon. When professors leave, the research typically follows them without some intervening reason not to, as long as they can complete the scope of work.
But the money is still getting paid to the participants here.
Yes,
Is what it's-
the grant is for more than that, I guess is all we're saying, is that there'll be, but it will be handled by the University of Northern Iowa.
There is also no administrative funds in the budget for the project.
Well, it sounds like the board's done some of their work. I also had some concerns with the changes and reached out to Dr. O'Gara and had a chance to speak with her this weekend. And she assured me and followed up with an email related to the community partners are all still in place. The research and the families that are going to be part of that data are all part of Dubuque County. So I was very, very pleased with that and happy with the thoroughness of the board and the applicant to address some of the changes. I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second,
Have a motion and a second to approve the purchase service swap contract for UNI, the amount of $74,900. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the purchase of service swap contract for the city of Sherrill. That's in the amount of $7,491.
a motion to approve the resolution.
And I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of service swap contract for the city of Sherrill. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution to approve the purchase of service swap contract for New Vienna Area Historical Society. And that is in the amount of $11,500, and it is duck pointing phase 1.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the city of New Vienna.
Second,
We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of service swap contract for New Vienna Area Historical Society. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next. Sorry. Next. Yeah, we have a resolution to approve the purchase of service contract for the New Vienna Athletic Association. That is in the amount of $6,601.
Motion to approve the resolution.
And I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of service swap contract for the New Vienna Athletic Association. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have a resolution for the approval of the purchase of service swap contract for St. Patrick's Church. And that is in the amount of $20,400.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for St. Patrick's Catholic Church.
Second,
We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of service contract for St. Patrick's Catholic Church. All in favor signify by aye.
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 I hope to be bringing, along with my partners, a similar number of these every week here, so we get through this pile.
Okay, thank you, Ed.
And
Yeah,
though some of these I had voted on against, as we were talking about dollar amounts, I'm intending to approve the contracts as long as there's not any like that. The scope relates to what I think the original scope was, so.
Thank you.
I'm comment to you, Ed, and the auditor's office and budget. Well done. Good job getting these together. I know it's been a lot of work and a lot of oversight, but appreciate it. And I know that our community members will greatly appreciate this now that they know that the funds have been secured and they're able to move forward with their projects. So good work. It's a great representation when you see all these small towns and or some small projects finally getting their overall approval and they get the green light to go.
Definitely thank staff for all the work on that. We'll move to communications, MMP CNR Swine LLC. Manure management plans. Up here in a second.
I will make a motion to receive and file that plan.
Second,
They have a motion and a second to approve the manure management plan for CNR Swine and Ryan Brothers Pork number 68426.
I think the motion is to receive and file, not approve.
I'm sorry, motion to receive and file the two manure management plans. All
Second.
in favor signify by aye.
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 We have a City of Dubuque Urban Renewal Plan Amendment 289-22 and City of Dubuque Urban Renewal Plan Amendment 290-22.
Motion to receive and file both plan amendments.
And I will second that.
They have a motion and a second to receive and file both of the Urban Renewal Plan amendments. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Go to current vacancies for information only.
I mentioned to the auditor prior to the meeting, the health board is anxious to approve their vacancies. We've concluded the application process. It will be on next week's calendar agenda. Is that
Correct.
correct?
It's an evening meeting, but we'll be putting that on for Monday, the 26th.
Thank you.
Go to personnel requisitions. We have a motion to approve the personnel requisition for the permanent full-time assistant roads maintenance superintendent. Any questions or comments regarding that?
I think we had a good discussion and feedback from the county engineer, so I'm ready to move forward if the board is. I will make a motion to approve the personnel requisition for the assistant roads maintenance superintendent.
Second,
Have a motion and a second to approve the personnel requisition for the permanent full-time assistant roads maintenance superintendent. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. Next, we'll have motion to approve the personnel requisition for a permanent full-time custodian.
Yes, Chuck is moving on to greener pastures, and this will replace his position. I would like to mention that we do have a permanent part-time custodian position out there that's been advertised. And while we've had a number of views, we have 0 applications for it thus far. So we will likely be looking at some temporary coverage in the absence of 2 of our 4 custodial staff. So I just wanted to make the board aware of that. We're not getting too many bites on these positions.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Would it be time to look at a contract service for this?
That may be the interim solution is to hire temporary staff to work on Tuesdays and Fridays. I don't know that anybody in this building, I think that everybody in this building can go a day or 2 without having their trashes emptied. So in order to keep costs down, we would be looking at having staff come in Tuesdays and Fridays so that we didn't have food waste sitting over the weekend. And then we had 1 midweek checkup, and that'll allow us to maybe address the needs we have as far as being able to recruit additional staff. So.
What is the wage level for this position? Do you know off the top of your head? I don't want to put you on the spot. but
I don't know off the
Okay.
top of my head.
No worries.
Make a motion to approve the requisition.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to approve the personnel requisition for the permanent full-time custodian. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. We'll move into public comments. At this time, anyone may address the board on matters of which are of concern to that person and which are not agenda items. Please go to the podium, state your name and home address. Please be aware that the board is limited in their ability to respond to such inquiries, and Iowa code prohibits the board from deliberating or acting on items not appearing on the agenda. Individual remarks are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anyone in chambers wishing to address the board? Seeing no one in chambers, do we have anyone on Zoom, Kevin?
Let me see here. We do have AJ Fobb, I believe, is interested in speaking.
Okay. AJ?
Go.
Go ahead, AJ.
Perhaps the chat was his comment. I couldn't read it.
The comments says that he would like to speak during the public comments about the 3-axle roads.
Well, there you go.
Is unmuted. Perhaps he's having microphone troubles.
AJ, are you present?
AJ, I would encourage you to send a message to the supervisors or the auditor's office, and perhaps we can get you on a future agenda.
Very good. Going once, twice. Oh. Ken?
AJ, we're waiting on you if you can hear us.
I will make a motion to recess till 9:45.
I will second that.
Have a motion and a second to recess till 9:45. All in favor signify by aye.
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 Aye. We are in recess till 9:45. Call the Board of Supervisors back into session for our 9:45 work session. Discuss the HVAC study performed by Shive Hattery with the Facilities Director and Auditor.
Good morning. Monica is on Zoom for this meeting, so there she is.
Good morning.
Morning, Monica.
Monica Sargent from Shive Hattery. She and her firm did the analysis on both buildings, HVAC study. Like to have her present. All right, if you'd go ahead, Monica, we're ready for you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. So we walked through both of the courthouse and the historic jail to look at the existing HVAC systems and try to explain what's going on with those systems and make recommendations on how to improve it. So the courthouse has a geothermal system, heat pumps. Typically in each room, there are a few ducted heat pumps that are above the ceiling, but mostly in the room. And what we found also through talking with Chris about the systems and the issues he's seen, the heat pumps are not able to keep up with cooling and heating in all of the spaces. It is an older building, does have large windows that allow full sunlight into those rooms. And they're just spaces that often have a lot of people, like in the courtrooms and the, say, the jury room. So there's that issue with it, as well as they're very noisy. And so what we heard is that people will shut off the units so they can either talk on the phone or even just have court. And when they shut them off, of course, then the rooms heat up or get really cold if they're in one of those corner offices. And so the system is just not serving the people, the occupants, very well. So looking at needing to replace that system. In the jail, it is about the system is very similar, where it's heat pumps and it's water-based. The units are about 10 years older, and so they are reaching the end of their life. And so that system, just because it's difficult to find parts and it isn't always maintaining heating and cooling that's required by the spaces, and again, some of them are noisy, that system is ready to be replaced. With both buildings, one thing that the HVAC system is lacking is how to improve the indoor air quality. So by code, ventilation is required, where you bring in outdoor air, that fresh air, and flush out the indoor air, as well as filtering. Those are the two most common ways of improving the indoor air quality. And so would recommend that the ventilation be put in place when the HVAC system is replaced. So looking at a couple options, these buildings, there's a lot of restrictions, just that you want to maintain the appearance of the building because they are historic. So you don't want to be putting equipment outside or on the roof. And the building is very heavy duty, like thick walls and thick floors. So it doesn't lend well to running ductwork, or large pipes. So it kind of limits your options for HVAC. So two that I saw as possibilities was you could just go in and replace their heat pumps and keep it a water-based system, geothermal in the courthouse, and then boilers and cooling tower in the jail. The risks with doing that are that you could still have noise issues. Heat pumps in the room don't lend well to conversations. They just tend to be a noisier system. It's hard to find a quiet system. But it would mean that all of your water piping that's in place today could stay in place. So the second option might be is a variable refrigerant flow system, where you run refrigerant through the building. And that provides your heating and cooling rather than water. And so you would install smaller units, and they are very quiet for each room. And then you would, but it would mean that you would have to replace your water piping with refrigerant piping. And then in both cases, you would want to bring in some outdoor air that you introduce into the spaces. So one thing to note too is it was mentioned that the West Campus uses a VRF system, and it has been very successful. And so I think there's benefit just to be using a similar system to what you're using today. So that is our study in a quick synopsis. Any questions? Or Chris, did I leave something out?
I think you pretty much covered everything. And for a synopsis, it was, in my opinion, a lot of nuts and bolts to it.
Right.
And there's really a couple components. This is Kevin, that you have your heating and your cooling, and then you have your air replacement, which would need to be introduced to this as well. So you really have a much deeper job, as opposed to simply replacing existing units or putting in a system like what we have now. It would make no sense in this day and age to move forward with a project of this scope and not start introducing outside air in to improve the air quality. And in reality, the coolant-based systems are a good fix for, and correct me if I'm wrong, Monica, but about 85% of the courthouse. There are some sections of the courthouse, including corner offices and other hard to reach areas, where that coolant-based system may not be effective because there are some precautionary concerns that have to be taken when you're running coolant lines that long. And what you'll need is to have almost a hybrid. So you may have some quieter units like what we have currently throughout this building in some spaces still operating, and in addition to that coolant-based system for the larger portions of the courthouse. So there is no one magic silver bullet for a building that's, as gorgeous as it is from the outside, mechanically, and the way it's built is a nightmare for modern HVAC.
What are you looking at for just estimates on cost, Monica?
So Shive Hattery was not asked to put together a cost opinion. I can share that what we've seen from similar projects that Shive Hattery has worked on, it's probably going to be $3 million to $4 million to do both buildings. We've really seen a big increase in material costs and construction costs. What I would recommend is that you hire an engineering firm that can put together kind of a rough design, looking at how you would actually put the system in place, what equipment you would need, get it sized, and then you can put together a good budget based on that. It's tougher for a building like this where it's not new construction. It's harder to put together a square foot cost kind of thing. But what we've seen is it's probably over 3 million.
And the last page of the report does outline some of the next steps. So the next steps would be to actually design and perform load calculations to be able to determine what size units you would need. And then using all of that data, as far as here are the specific pieces of equipment that you would need, here are the brands of the manufacturers that can handle the loads that we need, because we have some offices that are 100 square feet and we have some spaces that are over 1,000 square feet that will need heating and cooling. Once we have those specifics, then coming up with that exact cost. I have spoken to a handful of other auditors who have done projects like this for similar size square footage, and that's about the price range we hear. It's that sort of range. And part of that cost has to be kept in mind is that this is not a job that can be done during business hours. So we are doing it overnight. We are doing it on the weekends. We are working around our schedules as much as we can, because a lot of this will require shutting down entire spaces.
It's not something that can be done piecemeal either. It's all or nothing basically, because you can't do part of the building one way and part of the building the other way and be able to maintain everything you need to do by doing that. So you run into the issue of, well, we could do 6 different offices, but are we gonna go stay with water coil heat pumps to do that in the ceilings or whatever? Or are we gonna go with the, ERV units and VRV units to be able to control things in a more finite fashion, be able to maintain temperature?
There are ways to do that in historic buildings. There are ways for us to bring in air without damaging the exterior facade. There are places where we already have venting and some louvers in place. So we're not talking about high-end condensing units to the top of the roof next to the statues and having crazy vents popping out of the side of the building. Much of that can be accomplished in a few strategic areas in the back of the building that are already camouflaged in a way that they're dark, or they're dark colored paint, so that you don't actively see what's going on there. So.
Monica, this is Ywca. I'm Supervisor Ywca. Appreciate your staff doing the work here in the report. My question is, and I'm not sure if this was your scope, but maybe your experience and comments, is that related to our system, what are the risks that we face with the existing system? So do we have risks related to health and ventilation? Do we have risks related to, either too cold or too hot, which could cause damage to the facility? We've identified maybe the comfort or aesthetics or convenience issues, but do we have risks in our existing system?
I would say that there aren't risks to the facility, but there would be to employees. As you alluded to, you're not bringing in outdoor air or filtering to the point where you're like removing any respiratory particles in the air. So any kind of aerosols that people breathe, it just stays in the building. Probably the softer risks are that you will lose employees. Employees won't want to work, in these buildings if the conditions are so poor. And we all know how hard it is to hire these days. So that, I think that's probably a softer cost that you might face is that keeping employees. And there are studies done too that with improved indoor air quality and conditions, temperature conditions, that people's productivity is better. So you improve how much work people get done at work if they are in an environment that's comfortable and meets their needs. But to the facility itself, I don't see any current risks to damage to the facility. If that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Anything else, Jim?
That was my big one.
Yeah.
Well, Monica, I appreciate very much your report. I'm in my fourth year of my first term. This has been an overwhelming issue in the courthouse because it isn't about aesthetics. This is about the functionality of the heating and cooling system in this building. You're not with us, but I can tell you that the systems are turned off in this room so that I can hear you. We have towels hanging out of the system over in the corner trying to dampen it. The number one thing that this building does is it serves the judicial system. This is where prosecution happens. This is where children are adopted. This is the seat of criminal justice and justice in Dubuque County, and it doesn't work. We have people being tried for criminal charges in courtrooms where judges have to make it freezing cold so that they can literally have court proceedings. They build up the cool so that the heat isn't so bad. They worry about the heat. They encourage jurors to bring coats and sweaters and scarves so that criminal justice can go on. I mean, if you imagine being a defendant when the jury is freezing or intolerably hot. That's the experience we have here. So it has to be corrected because we're not, it's not that it's like a little too warm or a little too cold, or maybe it doesn't work. The system doesn't function for heating and cooling. And then we learned that there's no ventilation. So one can imagine why we all experienced COVID in our departments. It rolled through the courthouse. You come to work and you are exposed to everybody else's illness. So it's imperative to me that we look at this. It's that $3 to $4 million price tag at a time when our rescue funds balance is 1.2 million. But this is something that, you know, my questions to the auditor are, have we shared this with every department head? Everyone who works in this building should have a copy of this so that they know what we're faced with to find a system that actually does provide heat and cool.
Yeah,
We're gonna do that.
we can supply it to every
Right.
department head in the building.
In the system we currently have was put in place in 2016. I don't know anybody who still works for us who worked in the courthouse in 2016. I don't know what we were trying to correct, but I don't think we did correct it. So it's important that we get to work on this. It's expensive. So that means we need to get it right, not that we need to not do it. That's how I see this.
Our goal from facilities and maintenance in the auditor's office would be to, on the final page, there are 3 sort of next steps. What we would like to do is to bring a smaller proposal towards the board in the next couple of weeks that could allow us to get those load tests for heating and cooling done, that would allow us to get sort of a basic design concept that we could use to form a more concrete estimate that we would then present to you during budget time next year for consideration. And that sort of keeps us on a path where we're not sort of setting it aside for other things. It still is keeping the large bulk of the cost for decision making during the proper time through the proper channels during budget, but it'll give us the tools we need to get that number, because without that next step, we have no way of telling anybody, here's the specific equipment, here's what it's going to cost for us to do the job. And obviously there are, you know, increases and decreases in those costs. But there is that intermediary step after this report today and prior to us being able to tell you it's going to cost X amount of dollars that has to be accomplished.
Has anyone explored whether or not there's any warranty under the system we have right now? Has that ever been absolutely determined? This equipment in this room is only from 2016.
There is no warranty for the equipment we have currently in the courthouse.
And I personally don't see any advantage to replacing the system with units that our engineering firm is saying are likely to cause the same thing come around again. Right.
Well, this is a conversation that comes down to what the board and the county will bear as far as costs go. We can make anything happen for the sky's the limit, but in reality, in this day and age, we're going to need to look at a hybrid approach. We're going to be able to have sort of the control that we have now over heating and cooling, and to balance the safety of the systems that are recommended. We are not going to be able to just use one system for the entire courthouse. So there will be spaces that will have more efficient and more quiet units like we have today in those spaces.
What we're balancing is functionality, performance, and cost. I'm not worried about employee productivity. I think everyone finds a way to get through to get it done. I mean, the judges have told me that this isn't, well, one judge, this isn't even an issue anymore. They have changed their approach to how they work with jury trials to try to get, you know, apologize, inform, and so forth. Other judges are absolutely in that frozen out, heat, overwhelming condition. I mean, we have a problem. We all agree about that, right?
I agree. I don't think you can discount employee productivity though, and employee comfort and health and safety, and just the perceived idea that you're getting fresh air, or that you have a system that is actually working with you and not against you.
Right.
you know, I think that we've all, you know, in my almost 2 years here, I'm just accustomed to either being really hot during the boardrooms, during the board meetings, or being really cold depending on the time of the year, because of those various factors. And we just get used to it. It doesn't mean we should be getting used to it. It's just something that we've accepted, and whether right or wrong, that's where we're at today.
People come in to be on juries and they interact with the justice system. They're not accustomed to it being wrong temperature.
Well, I think we're arguing the same thing. I think that the jury should be treated the same way as the employees when you look at the benefits to these systems. So I think employee concerns are as valid as a jury concern. And as a judge and as an attorney and as security downstairs or maintenance up on the 5th floor, I mean, I think everybody should have a say or an opinion about the air that they're breathing. And ultimately,
So this has been an issue for 4 years. We're here now. I think we have the expert opinion. We need to take steps to move forward.
correct. And that's where we would be approaching the board in the next couple of weeks again to move forward with that process of doing the calculations, getting some of the design work done and completed so that we can then bring a proper request during budget time to the Board of Supervisors. And those load calculations and that process is not going to be a quick overnight thing. So, I mean, it will easily take us the next couple months. So we'll be butting it right up to budget time anyway. So we're not delaying anything.
I appreciate that we are here. I also would want to note that the West Campus, while we think the equipment works, we do have issues with heating and cooling there because of the nature of those atrium ceilings.
I think we're triaging right now. So
Right.
the massive blood loss is here in the courthouse and the folks, God bless them over at the West Campus. will
No,
be just
West
fine
Campus
for a
is
little bit.
delighted to not work in the courthouse. So I very much appreciate, I'm glad we got this to outside professional expertise. I know, Chris, I think you're thankful of that as well, that we're here today with a report in our hands. This is a big step, but it is, you know, I think we can tell folks it's going to be millions. And I don't know any other way to do this, to preserve this building and the functions that go on here, is to go down that road.
That's something you'd have to go out on RFPs for.
We'll have to do a little bit of legwork to see what the costs for that are. I would imagine, I would hope not. I mean, I would hope that it would fall underneath our threshold for us simply getting some quotes.
Talking about the service related to the study.
Correct.
For the load calculations and that.
Yeah, my guess would be is that we would not have to go out for RFP for that. I would hope not. That would be.
Engineering work, service work, we do not.
Yeah. Monica, I appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica.
Very much, Monica.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Chris, thank you, Jason. We'll move to our 10 a.m. work session to discuss the external ARPA application for the city of Piasta.
You're at the podium? Or would you like the mayor at the podium? I think they're looking to.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll start here and then
Yeah, thanks, Russ.
I do not. I'm opening remarks only.
Put it by the podium, the audience can see it when he speaks. Just, yeah.
I have it on screen.
Oh, he's on screen. We're good.
On the screen.
We're way ahead of you, digital.
All right, first I'd like to thank the board for letting us come and talk to you today. I'll introduce the team in a minute here. Just wanted to kind of reference from the city of Piasta what we're looking to do. We are a community that is swiftly, quickly, fastly, however many ways you want to say it, growing. And sometimes it gets ahead of us a little bit. So we're trying to to make sure we maintain what we think is important for that growth. And I think tantamount to that is the amenities for the citizens who currently live in Piasta and the citizens who potentially will come to live in Piasta. When companies look to relocate or locate a new facility, they often put at the top of their list what amenities are available for our employees. What do we have that we can make those employees happy when they're not at work? And this goes directly to towards that goal. This is part of a trail system, and you'll hear more detail in a minute here, that this will be the trailhead. That'll be a system that'll eventually work throughout the city of Piasta with a very long range goal, and this ever gets done or not, attaching to the Heritage Trail, so to connect to the rest of the county. So these are some of the goals that are going to be set forth. This is going to be a launch point for us, and we believe it'll be very good for the citizens of Piasta. I believe that you'll hear from a couple of the citizens today talking about how it will impact their lives, and why we feel this is a worthy project, and that's why we bring it to your desk today. Today, presenting for the city of Piasta will be our city administrator, Annette Ernst, our parks director, Stacy Bauer. Tricia Wagner is here from ECIA to help. She's coached this process from the beginning. Todd Sims is a resident of Piasta, will be talking on behalf of some cooperation for the city, and Kara School, who is a Piasta mom and neighbor to me. So I asked her to come today and address how she sees the benefits of this. So without further ado, I'll let them take over. Thank you.
It would be helpful to me if you could just give me the orientation. What is the street at the top of the map? Yes.
Railroad
And
is
then
tough.
this is a mark.
Okay.
And then birds.
Yes, it does.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Todd Sims. I'm a resident of the city of Piasta. I was brought on in this group in roughly about 2017. I kind of want to give you a brief overview of the parks development or parks development process, and then the project that we're talking about right here, which is the Kelly Oaks Park. We started in 2017 when the city of Piasta came to us and said, we want to develop the overall trail system and park system for the community. There was 7 of us that were involved, along with 1 city council member. And then we also had the ECIA sponsor that came in to sponsor us during this Keep Iowa Beautiful Hometown Pride program, which is what we worked on. So that went on from about 2017 to 2019, when we kind of laid out the groundworks for this park itself. And we focused our attention as a small group. The city of Piasta wanted us to look at everything. It got kind of it got a little bit big, so we pulled into one area and we focused our attention on this park. This park, and I'll get into more details, was donated to us by AJ Spiegel in approximately 2008, which is approximately 14 acres of wooded area that he slated for us to be a park for the community. So then after about 2019, we started things started to kind of fall apart, and it was right at the start of the whole COVID. Our wonderful friend COVID happened about 2020. So things kind of dispersed. The city of Piasta pulled in RDG to start looking at a comprehensive plan for the community itself, to lay out the trail systems in the park and kind of the flow of the community. With that, even though our original group kind of dissipated, some of us were kept on that. There was a culmination of a lot of residents, city council members, and we met on a regular basis via Zoom to talk about what we wanted the future of the entire city to be, not just this park. And then in May of 2021, they implemented this comprehensive plan that RDG had put forth for us. So then fast forward to right now, RDG is gone. The city decided to come back to some of our volunteers called up a couple of us that were on the original committee and asked us to join kind of a reboot process to get this back going and focus our attention on the Kelly Oaks Park. Now, what I would say from this, you're probably wondering, a reboot, why did we have to do this? Well, I think this is a good thing for us. We rebooted with more city council members, more, I should say, city staff. So our supervisors, our parks director, our maintenance people, they're all in the meeting now, along with a couple of residents. So a lot better cross-functional team to kind of get things rolling. So we jump forward to the project. As I stated, the project was donated. This land was donated in about 2008. That section up there is about 14 acres of wooded land. In 2017, in the winter, we pretty much started going in there and cleaning up the park floor. Our group knew that we needed to create the canvas ready to develop this park. So we wanted to get it cleaned up to see what we had and where we needed to go from there. Once we got in there, we started realizing that we were on the south fork of that Catfish Creek. So we got the NRCS involved because there was 2 creek stabilization projects that we needed to do before we started doing anything for the trail system. So we brought them in to look into that. And then in about 2018, early 2018, we started the major tree removal, and that was more or less to open up the floor of that park so that we could get the grass and the ground to stabilize. Right now it was pretty soft underfoot conditions. So we needed to take some of the problematic trees. When I say I'm very careful in saying taking out trees, it was just it was a selective removal of hazardous trees that would be not good for a city to have when you have people walking around in your community in there. So we started to selectively take those trees out over the course of about 6 months. And now we're at a point now where the floor is clear. The city is maintaining the property. We've gotten rid of, I would say, probably 90% of the poison ivy and multi-flower rose that were taken over in that park. And it's maintained and mowed on a regular basis now by the city. The other thing that we put in there is we did put the disc golf course in there. So the light green paths that you see, this was a disc golf course that we brought a company in out of Kansas. We brought a professional disc golfer, if you want to believe it or not. He came in and developed this course for us. And then they gave us, well, we purchased the equipment and then we installed it. We felt that as a group, that was the quickest thing to get in there and get the park going and try to kick the project off. And it was probably the cheapest thing to grab. So as a volunteer group, having to go to the city council every couple of weeks to ask for money, it was very tough. So this was an easy one for us to get kind of things rolling. And so that's what we did. And I say we put that disc golf course in there. One thing to note in there, we went out with a lot of, in our group, we went out with a lot of community support on this. We came in and did a survey. We sent out a survey to everybody and tallied the information on that of what they wanted. We gave them a couple options. There was a mountain bike trail or disc golf and a couple other things. And we asked the community what else they wanted. We compiled that data. And that's where we came into, we're just going to go with a disc golf course. It was more of the entire community can do it. And then a walking trail. We've got a gamut of ages from older people to the younger crew. So we needed something that was good for everybody. A mountain bike trail at our level was not sufficient. So we went this route on the park itself. Along with the community support, a couple of things to add. We had our Western Dubuque Community School came in and a service project early in 2018 after we had a lot of the trees removed. An individual reached out to me and asked us, could we do a project? And we had about 20 to 25 kids that came in and picked up sticks. Let me tell you, that was interesting to get 20 to 25 kids to stay off their phone and pick up sticks. But we were able to do it. It was a good exercise. We took out a lot of debris. And that's kind of where we are at today. It really has stalled out. And at no offense to anybody, it's just trying to get our feet under us and also to understand, most importantly, the financials. I deal with financials day in, day out at work. I knew what these parks were going to cost, but that's a big pill to swallow. As you guys were talking about your HVAC system, the pill to swallow on that, this is a big pill. Almost a $1.1 million project. So you can only imagine when the community sees something like that, they kind of get a little nervous. But it is a great space. It's a meeting space. That's what we want and we need for the city of Piasta, something to meet with our pavilion that we're looking at putting in there. And again, the walking trail for health, and then the disc golf course. Now, I might add a couple of questions on the disc golf course. You think, why would you put a walking trail in there? That was one thing that we informed the disc golf company, that we wanted a walking trail in there. So the map that you got here, this is just a rough representation of where we're going to we would like to put the trail. We're trying to keep it out of the safe way. You could see most of the trail from all the golf holes. It's not like it's hidden. So safety is obviously going to be key when we go through the final trail implementation. Also in our community, we had Fidelity Bank that set up a picnic for the park, basically fundraiser where they put on right at their facility. We kind of showed and laid out what our plan was going to be, and they raised approximately $1,700 for us. So we've got community support moving forward on this. Along with anything, you have the pros and cons. You have some people that are not for it and some people that are for it. You know how that goes. And it's a tough decision. So I can stress that one of the things, we looked at, and for instance, that parking lot that is there and the entrance in off of Cox Springs, there's multiple howlers. You see two in the picture here. We specifically chose that path for the parking lot, and we were going to sink it into the ground a little bit. So when the headlights are coming out of the parking lot, we're not shining into the back of those houses. And also when they park, they're not facing their headlights towards the houses. So we're trying to do some of that to try to maintain the beauty of the houses and the people that live there, to maintain that when we go into our final design. So with that, we installed that disc golf, like I said, in 2018. We kicked that off at our Piasta days roughly in September. That's when we opened the ribbon cutting for that. And the dynamic discs, the people that developed it for us came and they walked through our parade with us. And it was kind of a big kickoff to kind of open up the park. And then again, I said the unfortunate late 2019, 2020, that's when everything kind of came to a screeching halt. And then we moved on to fast forward to 2022. We've started up the new team. We've brought MSA on board to do the comprehensive plan, which Annette will talk about here in a little bit, of the dollar amount. We took basically everything that we wanted in that original group, and MSA put the dollars to it for us a little bit better to get us that comprehensive financial plan. And now we're ready to go into what we call our phase one of the program or the project, which is to put the playground, pavilion, restroom, and parking lot in. And then phase two would be the walking trail. And there is a couple bridges that would need to be added, and we're looking at bridges that would more or less fit in our setting, which we're trying to look more for like train car bridges because of the railroad behind it. It's very close. It's close enough, but it's within distance. In fact, the kids can see the trains when they go through. So it's kind of a neat area. We want to keep the aesthetics of that area. And then phase three, if permissible and financially, when we get to that, there was lighting looked at from a safety perspective to put lighting in there and then have that lighting so that we could dim that at night. So we're not dealing with the beauty and affecting the neighbors in the area. And then most importantly, to get the connectivity to the rest of the community. So we would like to attach this to the other trail systems in the community, because that is a big thing for the community. We want to be able to get to all of our places through different trail systems. But in a nutshell, that's what I have. You guys have any questions? If not, I'll turn it over to Annette for the costs.
Hear from Annette first.
Yep, go ahead.
So, gonna cover, and I don't know why I always get stuck talking about the money, but here we go. The overall cost for this is $1.1 million. And Todd laid out exactly what the different phases are for. So the ask that we're coming to you for is $475,000, and that bulk of that would be used for the parking lot and for the pavilion. I think that the city has $100,000 budgeted for this year. So that's a good start as well. And I know that we are preparing, as well as you are, to enter into our budget cycle. And I know that the city council, the staff, and I know the community is very supportive of us being budgeted very heavily for recreational trails. So with that in mind, we're also going to be using any kind of grant opportunities. And that's why we have Tricia here. She's been a world of wealth helping us look at different grants, and hopefully we'll be able to supplement not only what we're giving and what we're asking from you for this project. Also, I know that Stacy and the group will be very active in doing fundraising. This is something that the group has been talking about. We have to look at all avenues to be able to support this project, given the sticker price for it. Todd, you really took the air out of my sail. You got on a roll, yeah. Todd was talking about the comprehensive plan and the master trails plan that we had put together, and I brought some information, and if you could just pass it around, and it really did what the community came back and what they supported, and this is directly in alignment with what they want to do. Also, I'm going to take down and talking about Kelly Oaks. That was the first project, and Todd kind of touched on the connectivity. Well, we have different phases that we'd like to connect each trail to. I've learned a little bit that the DNR, when you go for grants with them, they look for trailheads. So this will be the first trailhead. And then we want that connectivity throughout the community, not only for the people that live there, for the people that visit us, and also for the industrial park. We have several people out there that enjoy walking around the community. There are some things that I want to touch on, and I'm sure you're aware of, but Piasta is it is the fastest growing city in Dubuque County. We're up 38.6% from our last decennial census. That's amazing. Also, our housing from 2010 is up 53%. Last year, we had 41 new homes. That's incredible for a community of our size. This year, we are at 20, and I'm still surprised that we are receiving building permits, given that the interest rates are rising as quickly as they are. The demographics, we're starting to attract younger families, that the ages are in the range of 30 to 46. Those families have an average of 2.5 children. So you can imagine the need and the want for a recreational trail or places for their children to explore. And I think this is what I really wanted to kind of hone in on. Over the past 5 years, the city of Piasta has allowed Dubuque County to collect almost $1 million per year from our community. So I think that too speaks volumes. So in looking at the ask, and I know there are other people that are asking for money as well, but I think that we have been very supportive of the county, and we're going to continue to grow. And with those 40 new homes coming on next year, we'll be well over $1 million that the Dubuque County would be collecting for our property taxes. So I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stacy. And Todd, thank you for shortening my presentation. No, it's okay. I also have 36 letters of support too that I'd like to give you.
The auditor.
All right, I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to be fast as well. I just kind of wanted to touch on partnerships, ones that haven't been touched on yet. I know Annette just mentioned the ECIA and working with them for grant opportunities, finding grants for us, writing grants for this project. She comes to every meeting. She's continuously looking for grants for us. as well as we have a Piasta Economic Development Corporation. Right now, they are working on acquiring a 501c3. The city is looking at kind of making that like a Friends of Man type of, or Friends of Piasta type of 501c3 to hopefully help us do some of the fundraising with that too, kind of open up as many doors as we can with this process. Piasta Days, we mentioned the kickoff for the disc golf course during Piasta Days. Piasta Days is a annual event we hold each year. It's a volunteer group that does everything for this event. All the revenue sits there, and what they do is they do give it back to the city. They have helped us in the past with one of our parks at the fire station. I think they gifted a couple years ago $25,000 towards that park. They are definitely interested in helping us along the way once we kind of get to that point with this park. So it's another partnership that we'll have moving forward. And then, like Todd said, Catfish Creek, we're working with them to make sure that we do everything by the book, with us being right next to Catfish Creek. And then Fidelity Bank, as well as all the other businesses in Piasta, we have a great working relationship with. Definitely when we're getting ready to do those fundraisers and that kind of stuff, we're going to bring them into the fold too, to get everyone involved, to get everyone excited and ready to do this. And then of course, City of Piasta. We are obviously in a different place than we were in 2017. We have more support, we have the backing, we have some money, with more money hopefully to come next fiscal year to continue to put towards this project to make it happen. As far as me on a personal note, very passionate about park and recreation. That is why I do what I do. That is why I've been in Piasta. It's an amazing, amazing city, amazing community center is awesome. And I think for a long time it's been, that's enough. And I think this excites me so much to have another park to kind of spread it as we continue to grow. Piasta Community Center is amazing and always will be, but it's not enough. We need to, we need to spread. We need to make sure to keep growing our parks as the city of Piasta continues to grow. So thank you for listening. Like I said, I'm going to keep it short. I think we'll go to Kara. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kara School, and I'm speaking on behalf of the families and community members of Piasta. My husband and I live in Piasta with our 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and 6-week-old, all 3 very active boys, along with our lovable 80-pound dog, Taffy. Many young families, including myself, are seen playing and trying to walk around town with their strollers, pets, and children on bikes. Since Piasta is limited with the walking trails and parks, it makes it difficult to be able to safely walk and get exercise, and to be able to let our kids play and ride bikes without having to cross streets or walk on roads. Piasta citizens would benefit from having an additional park added to Kelly Oaks, along with a safe walking path and pavilion. My son Leo just said on Friday he wished we had another park to play at. Implementing upgrades to Kelly Oaks Park would be one step towards a positive change. Seeing the city with a master plan consisting of safe walking trails and outdoor recreational features for everyone continues to keep community members excited about the future of our city. And not just young families would be positively impacted. Having great outdoor parks and rec amenities like these would help promote health and wellness for people of all ages within our community. It would also continue to attract and keep people in the Piasta area to keep our town thriving. Thank you for taking the time and consideration to help us work towards providing safe parks and trails for our growing community.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah. Thank you, Russ. Any questions, Jay?
No hard questions, but one, thank you for sharing your project and your vision with us. We've had the great opportunity over the last year and a half to hear from a lot of the communities throughout Dubuque County on a wide range of things related to Parks and Rec, related to baseball, related to libraries. And so I was a Piasta resident for about 18 years. And so to see this parcel, 1, gifted to the city is wonderful. And then 2, to see your enthusiasm for trying to open it up to the community is in my vantage point, very well received. So We haven't made too many decisions on game day, so to speak, so I won't necessarily lead the board in that direction. But I look forward to learning more about the project, hearing more from your citizens and how it is a importance and a priority for them. And once again, thank you for sharing it with us.
I'm appreciative as well, of course. I know it takes a tremendous amount of energy to come here and do this and put all this information together. I actually served at Jim Merton's request on your long range planning committee. So I'm aware of the tremendous amount of work and Todd, the numbers of hours that people put into looking at the future and what the vision is and the need for central space. I know that that is kind of, if it wasn't a park, it would be kind of a city hall or a city square. So I know that Piasta is searching for that as you try to develop the different parks, and the trails are critically important. The amount of the ask does concern me. I know that the project warrants a large request, that you need to get this to move. It has to be a big request. The $100,000 in that you mentioned that's in the city's budget right now, is that from this fiscal year? Or are you planning $100,000 or more every fiscal year? Or is this just what you've kind of set aside to date?
The 100,000 is budgeted for this year. It's kind of like a kickstart to kind of partner up with any other grant opportunities, and obviously coming before the board and seeking that amount as well. As I mentioned in my part of the presentation, that the council, the mayor and staff are going to be budgeting very heavily for Parks and Rec. So this is just something that I see as, I know it's a big ask, but given the amount of money that the city is, that the county is collecting on property taxes, knowing that we are one of the fastest growing communities, I see it as a win-win opportunity for not only the county board, but for the city of Piasta as well.
So are you here saying this is the highest need for you? Is this the highest need, or is this just kind of more shovel ready, or this is furthest along in development?
All three of those. This is, as you can, when I talked about it a little bit, this is phase one of that connectivity, and there's 6 parts that we want to complete. So again, having that $475,000 ask, that would really springboard us and be able to complete this project by, I would say, the end of next year.
So you have 100,000. Is there an amount, you know, let's say our grant to use for $40,000, a tenth of what you're asking, will the project still be completed next year?
It depends on the other grant opportunities, the fundraising opportunities, and obviously how we budget. So a lot is no pressure, but a lot is riding on the ask. So this is obviously it's ready to go. We'd like to be able to get this done by next year. There's a lot of anticipation from the community that wants to see something. They want to see it now. And I think that this is the biggest bang for the buck.
I think to add to that, the phased approach was one thing that we threw in there to, if, you know, we get so much money or we're allotted, we need to get that parking lot and pavilion and restroom in there. That's that first phase. And that's one thing we missed when we did our original group. We were trying to take on, you know, you always look at a group, they try to take on the big thing. Sometimes you got to take it on in buckets, and the bucket is that first phase. So if we can get that done, it just starts the process of the city putting more money in for the funding and or going for more grants, which is what we're doing to try to get the next phases going. So that's why we tried to, in this new group, to break it down into phases to get things moving along versus looking at the whole thing right away.
From my perspective, the ARPA funds have been expended over. When I visited with you, there were other things that I know that are coming requests from ARPA that weren't there before. And surprise to us today, the price tag on an HVAC system that doesn't work. So that improvement is for the commercial service at the airport. So, you know, timing is everything. And just, I don't know. So if you go back to the pre-COVID, before the millions and the billions were dollars, numbers that federal and state were using, you know, there was once a time when that kind of money wasn't floating around, right? We did help Epworth, I believe, with their splash pad. We helped the city of Cascade with their pool. So the board as a unit has a history of assisting communities, maybe where that match to the request that goes in with the grant application, you have to show, you know, that there's a county support, a letter of recommendation that goes with the promise of a commitment, of financial commitment. So that's kind of where I am on this project, just because it competes at this late date with other things that are coming in.
We completely understand, and any kind of contribution that we would receive, obviously, we would be very grateful for. But this is a project that's near and dear to a lot of our hearts, and we really want to show the community that we are serious about community planning, that master rec trails plan, and show that we're well on our way to getting this all 6 phases done and having that connectivity up to the Heritage Trail at some point.
I appreciate that you're here and you're asking, because if you're not here asking, there's not a way for us to say yes in any capacity either. So I appreciate your leadership.
Absolutely.
With regard to that.
And we appreciate your time.
My last comments will be, so you are late related to the applications. You're not the only one who was late when our application shut down. It might be 20% maybe of our applicants, maybe not quite that high. We're actually after the deadline. But we are not exhausted out of funds. We do have American Rescue Fund balance that would serve this project. Those are federal dollars that are being swapped through a program, but they're federal dollars that all of your citizens and all of your neighbors in the unincorporated areas contributed to providing through the Biden administration to Dubuque County. And as I mentioned, it's been a great experience to hear from the communities throughout Dubuque County. A lot of times we'll hear about, you know, a zoning issue or this road sucks or something like that. Very rarely the road sucks or it didn't get snow plowed. But to be invited into, you know, the city of Epworth on their park and their improvements, which we just approved today for over $400,000 for their lights, is wonderful. To hear about the small 2 projects in New Vienna related to the Historical Society and related to their ball diamonds were wonderful. And we can go down the list all the way to the big one in Dyersville, Field of Dreams for $5 million. So I, 1, recognize it is late in the game. 2, I recognize that our funds are lower. But 3, that doesn't disqualify you from the amount that you're asking in my vantage point. So I will look at it with the lens of fairness related to the other 21 communities and other incorporated areas and their projects. And hopefully my colleagues will do the same thing.
Much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Annette.
And thank the rest of the group too.
Thanks,
Bye,
Ross.
all.
Thanks, Kara. Thanks, Stacy.
The park bombs just really do awesome things. So thank you.
Oh yeah, turn on the air. Are we? I will make a motion to recess for 5 minutes.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to recess for 5 minutes. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are in recess till 5 minutes. Our next work session. I call the Board of Supervisors back into session for our final work session of today. The work session discussed relocation of DHS to United Clinical Labs building. We have Chris Miller here and I believe Lori is on.
Yes. And also Nicole Utoff and Ann Reinhardt.
Alrighty. Who would like to start?
Well, if it's okay, this is Lori Frick. If it's okay, I'll get started and then I'll let Nicole and Ann, at least from the HHS side, hop in, and then whatever order you want to go with, whatever Chris has to share as well as what we have to share. But just to kind of bring, I guess, I assume everybody's really up to speed, but we've looked at the United Clinical Lab building, I think 3 times now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. I believe we've been there 3 times to kind of plot out what we think would be workable space for us, considering the number of staff that we need to have in the offices that we need to have for supervisors, et cetera, ensuring we have enough waiting space for clients and for our support staff and our IT to work. So it does look like that space would work for us. I know Chris was putting together some numbers for you all. He went through with me and kind of drew up what the space would look like, where the cubicles would be, how we would utilize office space, et cetera. And again, it does appear to be a space that we can make work so that we have our conference room spaces and all those kinds of things. So pretty excited about that, as at least as an option for us. Staff are super excited about not having to pay for parking if that's where we land. So that would be great for them. But Nicole and Ann are on to kind of walk through what kind of all the steps that it takes in order for us to move into a new location around costs, as well as all the things that have to get done in order for that to happen. So I know that they have a PowerPoint prepared for all of you to share and walk through. And they'll kind of take the lead on a lot of this. I'm supposed to be on another board meeting here at 11, but I've asked them to just text me when they need me. So I'll probably hang on here at least for a while.
Thank you, Lori.
So if we could, just for everyone who's going to be in this conversation, Laura, you started with, you walked through this space 3 times and everybody kind of knows. Nobody does know that. So when you create context and big picture, you have to go back and start with the building, the blocks all the way up, the building blocks from the conversation and why you're there and what's happening inside your own building. So we're at least I am at the beginning point of knowing that you want to go somewhere other than where you are.
Well, I apologize for that. I guess I thought maybe Harley had shared all this stuff with you, so I apologize for that. We are currently in the Nestler Center building that is owned by Chris Miller, Chris Miller Development. They are going to be redoing that building, which is why we have been looking at some other space. We had looked at that Alliant building as well. And since then, we took a tour then with Harley and Chris and some of my staff at Health and Human Services to see about the United Clinical Labs building. We walked through it to see if we thought maybe it could work. We talked about the square footage, worked with Harley and Chris on putting together what the space might look like if we were to move into it, as far as how we could remove some walls, use the office spaces that were there. We wanted to make sure that we did as little work as possible in order to save costs for the county in doing so. And once we went through and finished walking through that building and working on what that space could potentially look like for us, that drawing, I believe, has gone to Harley as well. And we just indicated that if it were to turn out in this fashion, it could work for the department.
I don't have I mean, there's nothing in our packet today.
I don't have that drawing yet either, Lori. Yeah, that's fine.
So are you saying that you wish to be out of the Nestler Center regardless, Lori? Is there anything at the Nestler Center that's being offered, or are we are leaving that building?
Lori, I can take care of that. We met with Chris at the Nestler Center. Chris is wants to redo the Nestler Center.
Okay.
Space that they're in. He has no place for them to go there.
there's no space in the Nestler Center, so we are looking at relocating DHS. It's become a need, not just a preference.
Right. Chris owns the United Clinical Labs building. We went, looked at that, and that's where they've come up with the, looking at the, trying to draw something up to see if that would work.
And is the United Clinical Lab space, which is the old Cathedral School is how I know it, but is that on a bus line? The city bus go there? Does anybody know that?
I do not know, I would assume, but I honestly don't know. But for further context, Chris thought you'd be able to move into the United Clinical Labs space at a significantly less cost paying now. Some of that depended on a extended lease, like a 5-year or 10-year lease.
Lori, do you fit easily in this space, or is this I mean, I've talked to you over the years. I know you very much want to be in a space that's clean and conducive to productivity and all the things that, I mean, just you want to be in a good space for yourself and your employees. Do you fit in this, or is this a Band-Aid?
No, we absolutely fit in this space. There are ample office spaces for supervisors, leadership team members to be there. There's enough space to have the conference rooms that we need in order to have meetings with our families. And then the space that's kind of in the center of that building or that floor would fit the cubicles that we need for our staff. So it would definitely work.
And is it handicap accessible? Does all that work as well?
Yes. And Chris can certainly answer probably some of those questions a little bit better than I can, but there is an elevator that's there as well.
And what about lighting in the parking lot? I know back in the corners of that parking lot, back from my criminal law days, nefarious things occurred. Is there adequate lighting at night? I've never been through that, and not in years.
I haven't been there at night. I can't answer that.
Good.
Companies, and as Lori said, we've met many times on this project here. And just to give you a little background, and not to be long-winded with it, but I purchased the building at 799 Main Street, which they're currently located in, probably about 5 months ago. And after I closed on it, I was made aware of multiple concerns, issues that staff and Lori brought up to me, and we definitely are trying to I want to say put Band-Aids on those and take care of them in a timely fashion. But ultimately, with some of the issues, what needs to happen is a full building renovation. I mean, there's just some things you just can't fix unless you really take it down to the to the outside walls. And when I bought the building, that was the goal. That is the plan. And part of this process was working with DHS and see if we can help them relocate in one way, shape, or form, and talk about our timeline with the redevelopment. We definitely didn't want to put DHS out on or any of the tenants that are in the building for that matter, out on the street. That wasn't the intention. So we wanted to kind of get ahead of that one and start talking to them. And it just so happened that we do have another building that, that we were talking about now that could potentially work and hopefully save the county some money. To address your question about the parking lot and the lights. So the parking lot is a shared parking lot with 3 buildings, one being the church, one being 205 Bluff Street, which is the cathedral building. And the other is an apartment building out back with 16 units. So part of an agreement that was put in place between these 3 buildings way before my owning the building was that we have use of that parking lot, and we pay some of the shared cost for snow removal, things like that. And part of a big project that Cathedral did last year, or the church, they actually redid the whole parking lot with new lighting. And so I don't know exactly how many spots they have, but we can utilize any of them, except for on days when they have special events, maybe a funeral, and they just give us a little heads up on that.
We have financial numbers to know? And are you asking us to sign a lease for this building? What are the,
Well,
some of the kind of the terms?
so, yeah, how this happened was,
What it would,
yeah.
what it would look like if he remodeled it for this.
I understand that, and that's great, and I'm assuming, that Lori says it works really well. That's good enough for me. That it works really well, you fit well, that's great, people will be happy. It's a great space, no parking expense. Obviously, the clients you serve, the people you serve in the community will be happy that there's easily accessible parking as well, right? But we should know whether or not there's bus service. That would be helpful.
This is Ed. I looked at the Jewel website. You can pull up their bus routes, and the closest that several of the routes come is to 5th and 4th Street in that neighborhood, and this is more close to the 1st Street area of Bluff. So they come very close, but they don't come exactly as far south as that.
That would be something I'm sure we could talk to the Jewel about. If, I don't know, how many clients actually come on the bus, Lori, or.
It would be truly a guess of mine right now, but what I can tell you is what we have found over the years is they make their way, whether it's sometimes the bus, they ask people for rides, that kind of thing. So again, I think that 5th Street or that 4th Street is also on Bluff Street. I believe there's a drop off there. So it'd just be a few blocks down the road. Yeah, which is walkable.
Yeah, I'm actually satisfied with that. It was a better answer than I was kind of expecting, Lori.
What were the costs associated that the county would be covering, Lori? For the move?
So, yeah, so I know Chris, I believe, has some numbers to share with you as well, but this is where Nicole and Ann can walk you through really what our experience has been in our Des Moines County office. We moved from one building to the next, basically the same kind of a situation where they had to renovate a building for us to move. And so they have it all laid out for you, so you guys can see what the costs kind of come down to, how long it takes for the ICN lines to get configured, that kind of stuff. So this is really a good time, if you're ready for that, to have Nicole and Ann start walking through some of that with you.
Okay, that's fine.
Great.
You're muted, Nicole.
I wonder, Nicole, if you need to go into your settings on your computer. And I'm trying to remember, there's some button you can click where it comes with the microphone. We got some new laptops, you guys, so I apologize for Nicole with this. Every once in a while, they're giving us fits with the microphone issue on our computers. So we'll give her a minute to try to figure that out. And do you want to just say something to see if we can hear you?
Can everybody hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. I can jump into the presentation that, let me see here. I don't know if there's a way we can share our screen, or we have kind of a Excel document.
Yeah, there's that share screen in the bottom middle.
Yeah, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. Maybe I could send it to someone to share.
Or is there someone that can
Harley
open it up so she can share?
Had gotten a copy this morning. Or is there somebody else I can send it to?
Just one moment here. The auditor is gonna drop his email address in the chat, and then you can email that document to Kevin. the auditor.
Great.
Got it there? See it there?
Yep, I'm just grabbing an email here. Okay, I've just sent that. I don't know if you want me to go ahead and start talking about it or wait until we get it in front of us. Nicole, just as a FYI, I've had to use my headset before plugged into the laptop, and that's helped me get around the issue of the speakers not and the microphone not picking up.
Can't hear you yet, Nicole.
Yeah, we still can't hear you.
Well, I'll jump in since I haven't spoke yet. Maybe we can get organized, get the documents. I mean, I love the idea of what you're proposing as far as you're the existing building owner and moving them to one of your properties, and you've got the tenant DHS, which is very excited about this move and has talked to us numerous times about moving. So would love to be a catalyst to make this happen. But if we can get the documents to us, get the layouts, we can absorb it. Not your fault. We just don't have the information, and getting on the fly is probably not going to be productive for 10 people to figure it out. But that's my comment, but I'll let the chair determine how we want to move forward.
I just wanted to get some of the information out ahead of time here, that people had an idea what the costs are going to be associated with it before we even started moving in that direction.
I could talk to basically what happens if we scroll down in the spreadsheet towards the bottom. There's a section that says how the project is paid for. Basically, what happens is we gather all of the costs and bills for the move or the remodel and everything. And then that is sent over to the central office in Des Moines for HHS, and they amortize. They come up with an amortization schedule that ends up being a line item at the bottom of the LAE report, our quarterly LAE reports. So this project, this remodel, does not come out of each fiscal year's budget. It comes out of a separate line item at the bottom. And then the state reimburses at whatever percentage they are reimbursing at. Right now, it's between 33 to 34% of the overall costs. So that's the high level, how the costs are paid for by county and state. So depending on, if we scroll back up, then we kind of went through, bids are submitted usually to the public to see who has buildings or offices available. And then, it just kind of goes through that process. So that would actually determine what the costs would be. I can't even begin to speculate the entire cost at this point, depending on where we would relocate to and how much remodeling needs to be done. So Nicole was kind of going to go over this top section. Nicole, any luck on your?
I don't understand what we're doing right now. We're looking at how it works from Des Moines' perspective.
Right, the cost for the county, the state would pick up 33 to 34% of the cost of moving.
So, right, so 70-ish% of this is going to be at the county's expense.
Yes.
Right, that's how that looks. So no matter what we do, if we move.
65%.
Yeah.
Cost of remodeling, Chris, is taking and putting into the lease.
So we'll be paying for the remodeling because it would be charged in the, we don't have a proposed lease. We don't know anything about that.
Well, there's costs that I don't have associated, and I think infrastructure costs like getting the IT to the building because it's a specific system. There's things that I was not aware, that don't have to do with the building itself. So what I did was Harley had asked me to give some different options on pricing, and I think that's, there's no lease to present. There's, I think it's just a matter of presenting information at this point to see if it's a viable option to get to the next step. And that's kind of the point of the meeting. But I also have the proposed lease rates based on a couple of different scenarios. And with the idea of trying to reduce the current rental amount per month down. And my portion of it, it includes the actual construction of the space. So the parts that I think that they're touching base on are moving of furniture, the infrastructure and things like that versus the actual hard costs of the construction project.
So let me jump in to be clear, since we're going down the dollar amount. So you've got proposed lease on a document. I don't know if online, you probably don't know what document I have, but we've got the current lease and then we've got proposed lease in every scenario from 510. Every scenario, it is less than what we're paying today. And what you're saying is that includes the build out cost?
It does.
Right.
We're off to a good start.
Yeah, well, and part of the issue, or I guess part of the thing that helps with this is it's less square footage. It's going to be a nicer space because it's going to be brand new. We're not going to go in there and just put Band-Aids on it. I mean, it's going to look like a fresh new space for them, new lighting, new flooring, new HVAC. So it's those numbers all incorporated in there. But like I said, it comes back to the things that I think they're touching on is I don't know those costs that.
Right. And I think that we have team members here, Ed and Stella, who can help crunch all this information about costs and budgeting and all that. That's great. But I like that it's less. I like that it's new and fresh. I really appreciate that DHS staff seems excited that we might actually have a workable, achievable goal here for them. That will be great. Off-street parking, lighted parking, that's all good. I think that, what I would say to my colleagues is that if we enter into a 10-year lease for the DHS, they are no longer part of the equation of any other purchase the county would make, any other look we would be looking for real estate, right? I'm looking at Supervisor Potoff primarily, but as we try to move these blocks around, we've had multiple years now, 2 years of discussion about this. Are we going to be satisfied that we're not looking to move DHS?
We would have to be.
Okay.
I don't know that we've found a building that would be conducive for major move that we had initially talked about.
We talked about this building. I think the space was for sale.
Right.
So I don't know when you purchased the property, but.
Probably about a year ago.
And, the county just can move slower, and I'm
Yeah.
delighted to know that a young person has it and that you're coming to us with a solution. That's wonderful.
And I will point out that the numbers that I think they're speaking of are going to be numbers that you're going to have to deal with, whether you go to my building or another building, because ultimately they have to move regardless. So.
Correct. And I just think we don't need to develop those numbers here. I think it's probably important that they come to the people that we're going to ask anyway. I'm going to ask Ed, I'm going to ask Stella, to put it together as a.
I wanted to bring
final
it
deal. Yeah.
to use that we had some direction. Do we want to move forward with this, to get some more information, or is it something that's off the table? I can't make that decision by myself. That's why we had the work session, just to get everybody's opinion on it.
I think it makes sense. The concept of us buying another building really makes sense to me. We've been at this for 6 years. DHS has probably requested being moved for at least 6 years. You're the first building owner that has been here. We've had representation from the Nestler system, but Nestler building, excuse me, but I'm happy you're here. And then if you're moving them to a new place, you're not off the hook. You're with us. And so that means a lot. And then when you're presenting numbers that are lower and costs to move in that are probably modest, they're more challenged usually with business operations and hard costs. Yeah, I think it this makes sense. I think the employees will be served better, the citizens will be served better, and we'll have a course for the next series of years that's improved. So well done, Supervisor Potoff so far. I don't have any other questions at this point.
At least I don't have any other questions either. I think we need to work to find out if this deal can actually occur. We've been close, thinking we're close before, so this is great news.
Chris has been great with this whole deal with trying to make this work for DHS, but obviously he wants to get the other building remodeled. So I guess what do you need to do, Lori? Get some information to the state that we are, you know, kind of on board with moving this forward, or?
Yeah, we really can't do much on our end until you say, yes, you're gonna sign a lease or have signed a lease to move forward, and then we can start, and by all means jump in here too. We can start the other pieces. What we really wanted to show you through this on our end is that beyond the costs of what Chris shows you, there are other costs associated with the move, and we just want to make sure you are aware of all of those things. We didn't want you to be blindsided with anything. And again, I'll just say that I think Chris has been really great. He understands that, and he and I are both on the same page. We didn't want to do anything that we didn't need to do to that building, as far as like taking it down an unnecessary wall or anything like that. So we were trying to be really fiscally responsible when looking at that space and thinking, well, we can leave this wall and we can just do this over here rather than trying to tear something down and making it be an additional cost to the county. So certainly trying to be that way, trying to be transparent with you about the things that would be coming your direction as we do this move. And just a reminder, it will take, probably upwards of 4 to 6 months once we get the okay of the lease being signed before our ICN would actually be ready to go. So it's going to take some time on our end to get everything ready to go. But, and I'd ask if there's anything that you have to add to that.
What are you looking at for the construction portion of it?
3 months.
3 months?
Yeah. So we have plenty of time to get that. That's going to be the long lead time item, is
So
that.
you would need, go ahead with it at some point.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, the other question I would have is that Iowa Department of Public Health and Iowa Department of Health and Human Services are now joined in one department at the state level. And there was certainly conversation with me about co-locating, whether DHS and public health, even at the county level, would be, is that the long-term vision, as best we can tell, that they should be located together. I don't know if anybody has, that's still probably trying to look into some future prospect, but have you, Lori, heard anything about that?
There has not been any conversation that has come my direction that says that county public health will be together with Health and Human Services locally. I think all of that at this point in time is planning on staying separate. It really is state public health that has technically aligned with Department of Human Services, which created Health and Human Services. But locally, we're not seeing any changes at this point. Not to say that that won't happen down the road, but we haven't had any conversations about that now.
Next steps for me would be to see the costs, and maybe we can get some of this information from them so we can know what potential costs might be for relocation and get some kind of a timeline. Maybe put that into a format that's digestible for the public to see. Budget, maybe we'll be completely ready and in for July 1st, and we'll see budget savings in the next fiscal year.
Did you get something together like that, Lori? Kind of just outlining the cost roughly for, your IT, whatever else, a moving cost, but we'd be responsible for, I guess.
And do you want to kind of answer that? You probably have a better grip on how we can gather some of that information.
I guess until we would get where we're moving and all of that, and that cost. I mean, the moving costs, we just have to put out bids to see, who can help us move. for instance, our Burlington, the Des Moines County office, we do have to move leased equipment, and that can range anywhere from $500 to $2,500. So it really depends on the costs of the lease and if it's going to include utilities or not, what that's going to do to our budget going forward. It's still, we really need to know which office we'd be moving forward with, and then we could start giving more hard numbers of, the actuals. Right now, I could only give you estimates of what it's cost in another location.
And is there another location that you're aware of? Is there another option that we're thinking about? Aren't we all in for this location?
Yeah, as far as we're concerned, yes. But we don't make the final decision, you guys do. So we're just trying to talk kind of globally until you give us a direction on that. But if you're okay with that, I guess what we could probably do, Ann, do you think you could take some of the numbers at least that we did with our Des Moines County office move and put that together somehow, that we can at least show them as an example of some of the additional costs of the move that it was for us for there, so that they can see, at least get a ballpark idea of the additional cost beyond what the remodel is going to be?
Yeah, I could put that together.
Would that work?
This is what it cost us to move the Des Moines office. So if we do this similar.
Would that work for all of you, for the board?
Yeah, I think that'd be fine with me.
I think if if your state office can provide us with information, certainly our budget director, who's been handling some of the leases along with Chris Miller's team, can, and if we need to bring in Ed, I'm sure he's available as well. So I think we have enough firepower to figure this out. And it sounds like we have some synergy to agree on the 205 Bluff Street property. So I think we just need the details in front of us. So including the lease itself, and I don't know if the language is nearly identical in all the 4 options you gave us, and I appreciate the 4 options, by the way. But that's what I would need to narrow down, is just the language of the lease, and then the board would have to figure out the terms.
Okay, we can do that.
I would like to have the Board of Supervisors not be the delay. So I would think we have our location. That's my perspective, and we should get going. Clock's running.
I chuckled for you guys, so you didn't have to do that on Zoom.
Okay, sorry.
We've been the delay.
Okay.
We've been delayed for 6 years. So Lori, you guys are very kind. We've been the delay. This is probably the 4th building you've proposed to us, and maybe the 18th or 30th conversation you've been part of. So I appreciate your patience. I know the property that and the previous owner just wasn't as good for you, and so I appreciate your patience with us. But I feel this time we might have the right formula. And so
I'll just say that Chris has been very responsive. If we've needed anything currently in the building, if there was a bat or anything else needed, he certainly has been very responsive, and we really appreciate what he's done for us so far. And we appreciate you considering this new location, because he's been great to work with, and we would like to continue to work with him.
And Lori, I think that we are doing more than just considering. I think we're moving forward with you.
Okay, thanks.
We've had so many years of hesitancy. I don't know if you realize that now you are smiling, but before it really is that I think this is the first building that I've seen, and this is the first conversation we've had where it sounds like we really have something here we can complete for you.
Fantastic. We appreciate it very much.
I think want to tell Chris that it's okay to start remodeling, or do we not want to? I mean,
give us a week and let's get together with the budget director. We got some things we want to start putting to paper.
3 months there. And
well, what I'd like to do is present a lease, right? And then I think you guys can plug in which scenario, and I will just touch on make it quick here, but the financials and how those look. And the difference is we looked at is if you stretch the lease out from a 5 to 10, you can spread some costs out, and that's why they go down. And then the difference between and if you know, you can cut me off, but the difference between a gross lease and a triple net lease is currently DHS has a gross lease. It's one fee. It doesn't matter about any of the utilities, any taxes or anything like that. So that would be the first 2 scenarios. The second 2 would be the triple net lease, where the electric, gas, taxes, any other, dumpsters, things like that, costs come back to the county. And it's, and that's what, when you look at the numbers, that's basically what the difference is in them.
Supervisors, we would have the availability to put a work session on for October 3rd. So that would be 2 weeks from today. So preferred. That would give 2 weeks for everybody to get their conversations and their information back and forth. And we can revisit it that Monday morning at that meeting.
That work for you, Lori? 2 weeks?
What about, the time would be about when, did you say?
It's difficult to determine right now. It would generally
Okay.
fall anywhere
Probably in
between
that
10 and
10:30
noon. Yeah.
or 10:30 range again.
I might be, as of right now, I'm scheduled to be in Des Moines that day, so I would wonder if Ann and Nicole could make October 3rd work. Nicole saying yes, Ann is saying yes. So yeah, it would just give us a heads up as to when. We will make sure, I think this week we can at least get back to you what those costs were for that Des Moines County move so that you can have something to look at with that. If you would like, unless Chris has it for you there, I'm not sure, we could add in what Chris sent as far as what the layout would look like in that space so that you have a peek at that. And yeah, be ready to go for the 3rd. Just a reminder though, we will not be able to do anything with our ICN folks until we get a signed lease. So once you sign that, that will give us the thumbs up to contact them so that we can move forward. And again, on our end, from what I'm hearing from Chris, that's certainly going to be the part that's going to take the longest, is to get that up and ready to roll, which again could be upwards of 6 months. So just a heads up and a reminder.
And Lori, what I'm looking for is not new information being shared at this meeting, but anything. So anything that we want, I would like to see the full deal in the packet, right? The memo, the notes, the numbers, the projected lease, floor plans, all of that. So that whether you can come to the next meeting or Ann's going to cover it for you or whatever, we're still moving forward because the information shouldn't be new to be shared to us. We're turning a corner here.
Great. We'll work with Chris to make sure we're all on the same page too on our ends.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lori, and I'll remember to hit send the next time when I'm sending some stuff to you.
I forgive you, Harley, no worries.
Any other questions?
Good job. Well done.
All right, thank you all. We'll sign off.
We stood, that's all I can do is. Couldn't make any decisions, but Chris has been great to work with, Lori, and
Thank you.
at least we'd have some direction for him.
Sounds great.
I think
Thank
Chris,
you all. Have a great day.
Thanks,
All right, bye-bye.
Ann. Thanks, Nicole.
I think you're a critical piece to this, to have a new owner with new vision. It's very helpful.
I appreciate it.
Both parties make out. Thank you, Chris. We have nothing further. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you very much, Chris.